in a world overrun with the fake, delusional, and disingenuous. He stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? Back again for another show. If you guys could take a little time out to hit the like button, share, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Any help I can get with the algorithm is much appreciated. So I was listening to Brother Gigi's podcast, Green Gorilla. If you're not a subscriber, go over there and go check him out. As well as Dr. Tia Johnson. They deal with the topic that I'm going to be dealing with quite a bit, and have inspired me to take a look into it from my lane, so to speak. So as I was looking into this a little bit, I came across this doctor, PhD, by the name of Rachel Ramirez, who did a show on NPR. And she was very concerned about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and its association with concussions. And she came to the conclusion that the majority of these situations were these patients, or not necessarily patients, but people that she was observing while she was in doing some volunteer work. She felt like these people had the same symptoms as people with traumatic brain injuries. So we're going to take a look at that. And you want to take a look at it from the perspective of, if you guys haven't followed, any of Gigi's work, how, excuse me, and Dr. Tia Johnson, how a lot of the young ladies get into higher education and they become indoctrinated into feminist programming, which leads them to direct all their mental faculties towards the legitimization of fallacies about the condition of women in the past, women not being able to own property. Women were basically nothing in the past, and they were given this, and they basically just took this at face value. They didn't go do any research or anything. You hear the same talking points. You hear it out of Black women. You hear it out of women of other persuasions as well, where these women say things like, well, we didn't have our own money. We weren't allowed to own property. And there's no differentiation between whether you're you're Latin American, or if you are Black, or if you are white, in these different time periods. But those differentiations were significant, but we tend to just throw that out willy-nilly, and all women are the same now, all men aren't the same now, and we've been trying to reach that for hundreds of years, but now all of a sudden all women are the same. You have Black women taking up white women's causes, you have white and Black women taking up LGBT causes, and Black men are just sitting back and trying to figure out where we fit in. But like one of my favorite movies said, and this is very, very significant.
You're a winner. You got the gift. Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
If you ain't first, you're last.
See you when you're grown up.
Dad! Come back,
Now, men, you need to remember that. If you ain't first, you're last. And it's looking like we are always last to the party. You know, the agenda's being driven by all these other organizations, or they'll put our head on the front of it, and then they get paid as a result of stepping over our dead bodies, using our misfortune, using fear of us, fear of our black bodies, you know, in order to gain resources and notoriety. You know, you have women out here writing books and teaching classes and essentially teaching people to basically look at you as a roadblock to their success in life. Not as your mate or your potential life partner or any of those good things. They're teaching bad things. And what you hear is, you're not hearing good things being coming out of the academic sector, except for men who are trying to recover ground that's been lost. We're all being grouped into the same amalgamous form that basically is the manifestation of their disdain. And we have to do something about that. And the way we do something about that is, instead of, MSNBC and all these other places, CNN and all them, when they go out and they go bring out a black leader, who do they bring out? They bring out a black woman. When they bring out somebody that's a spokesperson, for whatever's going on in the black community, who they're bringing out? They're bringing out black women, or they're bringing out gay black men. Okay. So if we want representation, we have to be visible. We have to be visible in academic arenas. We have to be visible in political arenas. We have to be visible in our communities, in our churches, in every aspect of life. As the leaders, we have to take our place as leaders. And we have to prove that we are worthy of leadership. If we are sitting back saying, well, why come they didn't put us in front of the camera when they was asking about, this political situation, it's because you're not visible. If the Democratic Party or the Republican Party is moving away from your agenda, from what you're trying to do, sorry about that, then you need to sorry about that. So then, if we're not in these areas, then we can't expect to be shown as representation. If you're not happy with where the Democratic Party is going, then you know what you need to do? You need to go to the areas where all these meetings and where they're caucusing, for what the agenda is going to be the next go around. You got to be there. And you can't be there in small numbers. You got to be there in large numbers. And you got to have women that are there that support you and your ideals for where you want the representation and the money to flow into your communities. If you are not prepared to do that, then you don't have any reason to bitch about what you're not getting and what this party's not doing for you, because you're not out there telling this party what you expect. But you know what? You're not, I don't see any of you visible in the Republican Party as well. So we're not represented in either party, and the world is moving along without us because we've lost our spirit to unify and to fight for what's right. What's right for us, not what's right for all these other subsidiary, type folks. If it's Black Lives Matter, it's supposed to be about Black lives. It's not supposed to be, you go to a Black Lives Matter situation or a meeting or something, and then the whole agenda is about the LGBT community and intimate partner violence against white women. That is called a bait and switch, another form of snake oil. They get you in there and then they start trying to reprogram you. But what we're not doing is we're not saying, oh, what are you doing here? This young man just got killed on the side of the street, and you're here trying to, hijack this situation so that you can get money out of it, so that, you have a situation where we're fighting for the lives of Black boys and Black men and better situations for Black boys and Black men, the same fight we've had ever since 1965. Okay? Same information's been out there ever since then. You have to support Black men in the community. You have to support them. You have to make sure that they get education. You have to make sure that they are monetarily, in a good situation so that they can maintain the family situation. Okay? We've done everything but that. And we keep hearing the same song. We keep hearing the same song about, we're supposedly in roving bands just running through the countryside, just, beating up folks and, and traumatizing people, physically and mentally. And, I know I don't know anybody that does that. And I'm hearing a lot of other content creators saying the same thing. These are educated brothers, people who are making a good deal of money, who are, excuse me, y'all, who are doing well and, have never witnessed this, don't want this in our communities, speak out about the prevalence or the mistaken prevalence of large numbers of these things, happening in our community. And, we're being talked to like we're crazy or acting like we are just not, not willing to see what's going on. But that's not the case. But anyway, the reason why I picked this story is because this young lady, and you'll see it through the story that she writes in the article, but she's using this to get money, not for all people who may suffer from some sort of traumatic brain injury as a result of intimate partner violence, but she's only trying to get money for women. Only. And you'll see that she has no numbers to support what she's saying, like in this description here. And as if you guys get a chance to listen to this, you got to go and listen to this because, there are holes all the way through it. Okay? An invisible epidemic. Survivors of domestic violence on living with traumatic brain injury. An invisible epidemic is causing suffering in millions of women. It affects memory, concentration, balance. We discuss traumatic brain injuries and survivors of domestic violence. Eve Valera and Rachel Ramirez join Megan Chakrabarty. Okay? Where you're going to see where this invisible epidemic is because she has no numbers to support her claim that there are millions of women out here with traumatic brain injuries. Okay? She's also going to to basically talk about, the symptoms of traumatic brain injury, which also can, without the proper diagnostic tools, you can't differentiate between a traumatic brain injury and certain forms of stress manifesting in significant ways that need to be addressed from another, avenue, as opposed to it being a traumatic brain injury. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get into it. She wrote one in 2018, and then she just did one 5 days ago on NPR. But let's get into it, and let's tear this down. And you guys tell me what you think in the comments. And hopefully I wasn't too long-winded in the beginning. Okay. So here's the first article. Okay. Intimate partner violence and traumatic brain injury, an invisible public health epidemic. Now, the reason why she did this was because she's been having problems getting funding for her research, which she needs brain scans in order to substantiate that the people that she's been observing in these homeless shelters have what she thinks they have. Okay. There she is. She's the PhD there. And let's get into her little background here. Okay. While studying brain injuries in the mid-90s, I began volunteering in a domestic violence shelter. I noticed that the abuse and problems many women reported were consistent with possibly experiencing concussions. Okay. Women reported many acts of violence that could cause trauma to the brain, as well as many post-concussive symptoms. Shockingly, my research for literature on this topic yielded 0 results. Now, she's being disingenuous with this because the research that she found dealt mostly with men. And in the interview, she basically said that when she tried to go and get funding for this, the reason why she can't get funding is because the funding, the research that she's trying to do was already done, had already been done on men with traumatic brain injuries. So women aren't that different. So the powers that be felt like, the same end result would come about as a result of traumatic brain injury. And she wants it specifically for women, which will be essentially duplicating the research. And again, she has no interest in any information about men who suffer from traumatic brain injury or post-concussive issues. She's only concerned with women. I find that I have an ethical problem with that. What if doctors came out here and they were only concerned about treating men? They really didn't care about, the same conditions in women, and they just didn't care. That will be a problem. You have to look at the whole human organism. You have to look at the male and the female. See, so there's this mythology that no one has been concerned about females ever in medicine, and that's not true. So let's move on here. When I decided to focus my graduate work on this topic, and this is another thing that Dr. T. Hassan and Johnson and Gigi talk about, is how the majority of the papers that female students are writing are dealing with the same topics, women's issues. They're completely focused on women's issues. I remember, back in the day when I was in college, everybody was writing their papers about HIV and AIDS. I was so sick of it. I couldn't even couldn't stand it. I would leave the class because every single paper, it just showed a lack of vision, a lack of individuality, in people who are supposed to be in a system where they're trying to learn to think, to try to find things that are important, that are different from everybody else, but everybody just tags along with the same topic. So if you have all of these people who are just stuck on this victim mentality, that all women are victims, all women have been domestically abused, all women have been the focus of men's disdain, and that is a lie. And we've shown, Gigi and Dr. T.S. Johnson have shown where these people are willing to lie to get the end result that they need. They've got them, it's documented. Betty Friedan, and the others, they were more than willing to lie and say whatever they needed to say in order to move things along. A case in point, the myth that on Super Bowl Sunday, that is the day when domestic violence happens the most at any other time in the year, and that has been proven to be a lie. When they were asked to produce the numbers, produce the research, they could not produce the research, and the man the researcher's name that they used said that he never said it. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so she decided to focus all her energies, focus my graduate work on this topic. I was even more shocked by what I learned from women who had experienced intimate partner violence, IPV. Of the 99 women I interviewed, 75% reported at least one traumatic brain injury, TBI sustained from their partners, and about half reported more than one, oftentimes many more than one. Also, as I predicted, the more brain injuries a woman reported, the more poorly she tended to perform on cognitive tasks such as learning and remembering a list of words. Additionally, having more brain injuries was associated with higher levels of psychological distress, such as worry, depression, and anxiety. Okay, now this is the part that you'll see. Depression and anxiety can have the same effects, the same symptomology as traumatic brain injury. So one of the ways that you diagnose that, I'll get into that. That'll be the second part of that. So when I published these results, I was excited about the possibility of bringing much needed awareness and research attention to this topic. Unfortunately, over 20 years later, despite the plethora of concussion-related research in athletics and the military, concussion-related research in the context of intimate partner violence remains scant, representing a barely recognized and highly understudied public health epidemic. How can you say that something is an epidemic when you don't have the numbers or the research to back it up? See, this is what I'm talking about: ethics, ethical responsibilities, and the spread of misinformation for the sake of funding. This is irresponsible, and it characterizes men in a bad light. Even though she may not think that she is, when women read this, this will instill fear in them with regard to dealing with men. Okay? So let's move on. What do we know about intimate partner violence related traumatic brain injuries? Okay? First, we need to understand that an estimated 1 in 3 women experience some type of physical or sexual partner violence in their lifetimes. IPV is not a rare event, and it traverses all socioeconomic boundaries. It is the number one cause of homicide for women and the number one cause for violence to women. For many reasons, including the stigma of being abused, many women hide their IPV, so the chances that we all know personally, at least few people who have sustained IPV, are quite high. Okay, so see how she pulls on your coat strings there and, your coattails, and she's trying to make you acknowledge that we all know someone. We all know someone who has been abused and beaten and by, that's supposed to make you feel like, yeah, those numbers could be way higher. Yeah. So this paper, this interview here itself is a plea for funding. I just want you to realize that. Okay. Now, as you can see up here, the research has already been done in athletics ad nauseum and in the military, and also the effects, post concussion. All of that's been studied, and that's in men and women, because men and women were in these vehicles, were close to explosions, which could have caused TBIs. Okay, so this is not just on men, although the majority of men were probably parts of the study, but women were involved with these studies as well. And this is ongoing because this is still being done by the VA. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Though we lack the good epidemiological data on the number of women sustaining brain injuries, there again, she says for a third time, she does not have the numbers, but she keeps saying that it's an epidemic. She keeps saying there are millions of women out here suffering from traumatic brain injuries where I guess, men have, caused them, is what she's insinuating. Okay. Because of her time inside of, this shelter for women. So, you have to look at that, in a realistic way also. If you were in a shelter, for people who were refugees from, a battle or whatever the case may be, you're going to become sympathetic to that cause, overly sympathetic, to the point to where maybe you might not be able to look at the situation objectively, in order to solve whatever problem that's causing them to come to, the shelter in the first place. You may become overwhelmed with emotion, but as a researcher, you can't do that. You have to look at it for what it is and, document and try to address the problem for what it is from a data perspective. But if you have no data, you cannot make claims about the end result if you did have data. All right. All right. So let's get back to it. Okay. Though we lack good epidemiological data on the number of women sustaining brain injuries from their partners, the limited data. Okay. And let me stop here again. Okay. Of women sustaining brain injuries. But we all know men sustain brain injuries also from these women, i.e. being ran over by cars, being hit in the head by pans, being stabbed, whatever the case may be. Stuff thrown at them, but she's not concerned with any of that. So I find that to be troubling, to say the least. All right, let's move on here. Okay. Injuries from their partners. The limited data that we do have suggests that the numbers are in the millions. I'd like to see that data. I like to see it. She's yet to produce it. I've been looking for it, but I don't see it. Okay, in the U.S. alone, she says, most of these TBIs are mild and are unacknowledged, untreated, and repetitive. So if they are mild, that means they're not going to be treated. If they're unacknowledged, then how are you counting them? Sorry, y'all. Phone. So if these are unacknowledged, untreated, then how are you counting the numbers? How do you come up with the data and the numbers to substantiate your claims? You can't. They have to be treated. They have to be counted by somebody. And it has to be done in a specific way in order for you to publish that data and it be respected by your peers. So, if she doesn't have that, then she can't make these claims. So, also says, consequently, many women are at risk for persistent post-concussive symptoms with completely unknown long-term health risks. What are the signs and symptoms of this IPV-related TBI? A concussion, by definition, is a traumatic brain injury. All that is required for someone to sustain a TBI or a concussion is an alteration of their consciousness after some type of external trauma or force to the brain. For example, either being hit in the head with a hard object such as a fist, or having a head hit against a hard object such as a wall or floor can cause a TBI. If this force results in concussion, memory loss around the event, or loss of consciousness, this is a TBI. Dizziness or seeing stars or spots following such a force can also indicate a TBI. A loss of consciousness is not required, and in fact, does not occur in the majority of mild TBIs. There are often no physical signs that a TBI has occurred. Recognizing that an IPV-related TBI has occurred will typically involve asking the woman about her experience following a blow to the head or a violent force to the brain, and then listening for the signs of an alteration, alteration of consciousness, such as confusion, memory loss, loss of consciousness within the next days or weeks or week, a range of physical, emotional, behavior, or cognitive issues may indicate post-concussive symptoms that could include headaches, dizziness, feeling depression or tearful, being irritable or easily angered, frustration, restlessness, having poor concentration, sleep disturbances, forgetfulness, taking longer to think. All of these things can also occur in PTSD, extreme bouts of stress, extreme bouts of anxiety. All these same things can occur. The only thing that's going to show a difference is scans of the brain, MRIs, CT scans. Those would indicate any damage to the brain that is significant, and also, a full assessment of the patient like I said, monitoring of the patient in order to figure out what's going on. But most of the time, you're going to get this person either before they've gone to a hospital or after they've gone to a hospital, if they went to a hospital, which most of the time they probably didn't. So you're getting one side of a story. You're not getting whether this person initiated or whether this person, whatever the circumstances may have been. You don't understand. You won't have a full understanding of what happened unless you have the police reports. So you're gonna need a lot of other things in this study in order to make the claims that she's trying to claim here. So this is very one-sided, and like I said, it's a plea for funding. So If a TBI is suspected, a woman should see a doctor if possible. Sustaining additional TBIs while still symptomatic will likely increase the time to recovery and possibly increase the likelihood of more long-term difficulties. What can we do? Okay. She says an important component of addressing IPV-related TBI is to raise awareness and destigmatize the intimate partner violence. See, this is a part of that Me Too, I almost cursed, thing. So when you raise this awareness and whatnot, I mean, we see where these women will, strike men. And then when the man pushes them away or tries to protect themselves, they drop to the ground. Oh my God, he hit me hard. He did this to me. That doesn't address this. That should be addressed. Okay. All of this raising awareness also will empower those who are not legitimate to basically come out and claim to be injured when they're not. See, there's where are the studies on the effects of all of this empowerment that's causing people to increase the false claims of injury and the false incarceration of men losing their jobs, their livelihoods based on stories. What about that? Okay. So, and destigmatize intimate partner violence. How do you destigmatize intimate partner violence? Destigmatize. You're going to say, oh, it's okay. It's okay for that to happen. No, it's not okay. And men who are in situations where they are having to deal with intimate partner violence. We've seen the videos where these women have these emotional outbursts, striking men, slapping men, throwing things at men, running men over, saying you're not going to leave me. Women pulling guns on men, telling them you'll never leave me. Women killing their husbands because they think that they're going to leave them. These things, nobody's addressing that. This woman has she has no care in the world about any of that. She's just focused on making everybody see that there are millions of women out here being victimized, which is going to have a secondary effect, which is going to make men look like monsters. And without men and women working together, we as a species cannot exist. We in a civilized society will not be able to exist the way in a harmonious way. Okay. So here she goes on to say IPV is unfortunately quite common. You're saying it's quite common, but you don't have numbers. Here it is. What's this, the fourth time, fifth time? She keeps talking about numbers that she doesn't have. Now she's going with estimates. Okay. So they're estimating based on numbers they don't have that suggest millions of women may be sustaining unacknowledged, unaddressed, and often repetitive mild TBIs or concussions from their partners. Talking openly and honestly about the problem, especially in cases where abuse may be suspected, is critical. But only if you're a woman, is what she's saying. As we open up this conversation about the commonality of IPV with non-judgmental acceptance of a woman's experience. Why didn't she say of the experience? You see how all of this stuff is one-sided. So the money is one-sided. That's why we're uplifting women, at such a rate that, men are not even being looked upon as viable mates. We're monsterizing, men. We are giving women opportunity after opportunity. We're funding the money. We're giving them, education. We're making them astronomically better than their supposed partners or their potential partners. And That's why anytime you see a woman and they say, okay, well, the average man makes, 40,000 and whatnot, look at their faces before they even say anything. They just grimace up and they're just like, ugh, 40,000. I can't live off of that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But see, this is a part of what I said in one of my earlier streams also. Have we become so comfortable that we don't even know what it takes for us to live a comfortable life? We are so used to visualizing abundance that we don't know what it actually takes for us to be comfortable. We're buying too much house, too much car, and, stressing about not having money because we're spending. We're not really sitting on money. We're not really using money in a way that it was intended as a tool, making money work for us. We're not doing these things. But again, I've moved off of the topic at hand. So let's get back to this. Okay. Again, she's focused on the woman's experience. We will be in a better place to hear, understand, and support women who may be unknowing members of this invisible public health epidemic. There's something that we can learn from this. In the future, I task everyone, all of my listeners and everyone who hears this, that when there is a situation that is affecting us as Black men, we need to be upfront and visible. And anything that comes into that, we need to push it to the side. As men, period. If it doesn't relate to our issues and what we feel is important to our communities, then it needs to be pushed to the side. We are to, in the future, we cannot allow infiltrators to come in and to sidetrack, the funding that we may get to help with boys and men, Black boys, Black men, to maintain their position in the community. If it doesn't add to that, we don't need any female leaders. We don't need any LGBT leaders. We don't need any of that. We don't need anybody that's confused about who they're supposed to be representing. And if we do that, we may be able to just make some headway in this. And I mean doctors, I mean nurses, I mean lawyers, I mean your average everyday guy out there. We all need to stand together. All this divisibility about who makes more money, who's a high value man, that's all bullshit. Okay? We need to stand together in order to stand for what is right for men in this country. Because if we don't, we already see where it's going. I've been reading one of my streams. I talked about an article in Jet magazine, where it shows what happens when men become scarce in a community. Post World War II Germany, post World War II Japan, where these women were tearing themselves apart trying to get over here to get a man, and they were looking for Black men. Okay, so think about that when you think that you're not wanted, you think that your options are not as broad as you would like them to be. That's your mind playing tricks on you, buddy. You need to keep your confidence. You need to draw your shoulders back, stand tall, and face your problems. And this is one of our problems that we have to stand together and face. I'm going to read this disclaimer and then I'm going to get off of this trash. Okay. As a service to our readers, Harvard Health Publishing provides access to our library of archived content. Please note the date of the last review and update on all articles. No content on this site, regardless of date, should ever be used as a substitute for direct medical advice from your doctor or other qualified clinician. Okay, now there's some comments down here. You'll hear about, some of the other people, and I'm not going to go through that because that'll take all day. I've got another couple of articles here. And I've got the actual interview. And after you guys listen to that interview, you guys tell me what you think about her premise that's what's going on. So anyway, I'm going to do this right quick. Also, we talked about how does a doctor diagnose a TBI? Okay. Assessment usually includes a neurological exam. This exam evaluates thinking, motor function, movement, sensory function, coordination, eye movement, reflexes, imaging, tests, including a CT scan and MRIs, just like I told you guys. And then it says here, cannot detect all TBIs. So some TBIs can't even be detected. So if they can't be detected, then, how can you say that the numbers that, she's claiming even exist? So if those numbers don't exist, you can't find them. You can't substantiate that a TBI is even present. You're just making up numbers. You're making up numbers for funding, and you're making up numbers and inadvertently, and I'm gonna say this and be nice. She's making up numbers and vilifying men inadvertently. I'll just say that, but I'm not sure that it is inadvertent. She may be doing this purposefully. So that's my spill on it. That's Abuki's take on it. That's Rodney's take on it. You guys, tell me what you think in the comments. I hope you guys like this, but please do listen to the interview. And if you listen to the interview, I think you'll get the same out of it that I got out of it, because she can't get the funding, and she's frustrated because she can't move this female agenda, female focused agenda forward. And I don't feel that bad about it. Now I do want to say that nobody deserves to get abused or any of that, but nobody deserves to be able to make up numbers in order to get funding and to go out here and substantiate the demonization of men, which is what I feel like is the intent of this research. But you guys tell me what you think. I appreciate it. And please like, share, and subscribe. You guys stay well. And Abuki's out.
I feel like a